Hello, hello, wherever you are in the world. My name is Agnes van Rhijn. I'm a life and business reinvention mentor at Success on Your Own Terms, and I'm the founder of the Woman Who Makes Things Happen show. Today it's my privilege to be interviewing Karen Magill. Karen is a writer, a motivational speaker, and a life coach who lives in Vancouver, Canada. Forced to leave the workforce in 2000 by the onslaught of MS, Karen saw this as an opportunity to explore her lifelong desire to write. Her first book, On the Right Side, My Story of Survival and Success, was published in 2014 and is an inspiring story about her journey with MS. She now is the author of 4 published paranormal novels, including the award-winning The Bond, A Paranormal Love Story. Karen believes that anything is possible, and when she writes fiction, she leans towards the paranormal. She writes about extrasensory powers as if they are commonplace, because in her mind, we're all capable of those gifts. Welcome to the Woman Who Makes Things Happen show, Karen. How are you?
I'm great, and thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. What a story of reinvention. You have quite a story. Tell us about it.
Okay, well, I'm going to backdate it, take you back in time to June 4th, 2000.
Yeah.
Because that was a Sunday night. I went to bed. My main concern was I had a great job with the Canadian government, right? And in 10 days on the 14th, my 1-year anniversary would be up, so the probationary period would be over. My only concern was I was overweight, and my blind date the night before didn't go well. Do they ever? Yeah. That was But then I woke up on the Monday morning and I rolled over to turn off my alarm and my left arm didn't move.
Wow.
So, I was kind of turned it off with my right hand. And when I went to get out of bed, as soon as I put weight on my legs, my left one collapsed. So I had to crawl to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
And then after I finished there, I was able to put weight on my leg. And I propped my body against the vanity. And when I was brushing my teeth, I noticed the left side of my face didn't move. It was as if someone had drawn a line down the center of my body. This side worked, this side didn't. And you want to know
Scary.
it was really weird? I wasn't scared at the time. I went to work.
Oh. You have something like that happening and you go to work?
Yeah, went to work and I made a doctor's appointment there. I went up to see him. And he sent me to the emergency room at the hospital across the street. At St. Paul's Hospital. And you want to know something really weird? My maternal grandmother died of a brain tumor there in 1937.
Mm-hmm.
So I waited for 5 hours in the emergency room. And of course, all these thoughts are going through your head. Stroke, brain tumor,
5 hours is a long time to invent all the possible reasons.
Oh yeah, and then I saw a doctor and then a neurology intern. And then I was there for 7.5 hours, and I still didn't get a diagnosis when I left. And 2 days later, I went to see a neurologist, and he sent me for an MRI, which happened on June 14th, my 1-year anniversary. He called me into his office and told me it was multiple sclerosis then. But I took 5 weeks off work. And I thought I'd just go back, everything would be just as normal.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the symptoms of MS is chronic fatigue. And by me going back to my old schedule, I was exhausted all the time. But I couldn't go to part-time because if I had to go on disability, they would base my wages on the part-time income.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a single female. I couldn't live on that. So it was a rough summer.
Wow, the blind date, we don't care anymore. Wow.
Oh yeah, blind date, as a Monday morning, I didn't really care.
So how does one react when, well, once you get that type of news, and that basically your life all of a sudden goes from frivolities, fun
Mm-hmm.
blind dates and stuff like that, to something more seriously impacting your future?
Well, I cried for 8 hours straight. And then you do go through some depression, and everything that happens to you, everything that goes wrong, you start thinking it's got to be the MS, got to be whatever.
Can imagine.
Yeah. But you adjust. By the end of September, I went to the MS clinic at the University of British Columbia. And the doctor there and I decided they'd be better off if I went on disability. I said I was 35 because this attack occurred exactly 3 weeks before my 35th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, my life was over. That was it. I was going to spend the next 40 or 50 years sitting alone in my one-bedroom apartment, watching TV, maybe surrounded by a bunch of cats. But the cats never came to be. And I did more than just sit around watching TV. But you go through a period of adjustment where, you think your life is over, but you've got to... No one's ever promised us that life is going to be fair.
Absolutely.
So we have to just suck it up and keep going. I wrote a poem in January 2001, which was published in the MS paper. So that's when I first started getting back to it, to like living again. I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm. So writing for you, is that something that you were already dreaming of before?
Oh yeah, my grandmother was a published author, my dad's mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I've
That was
always...
dreams.
Yeah, and I've always written. So it just came naturally to me to write. And 2004, I published, and I got them right here. The Bond, a Paranormal Love Story. That was the original cover.
Mm-hmm.
This one's been translated into Turkish.
To Turkish.
Yeah.
Wow.
Don't ask me if they did it right because I can't read Turkish.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And looked at by movie producers, but nobody's picked it up for a movie yet. Did that 2004. In 2006, I published Let Us Play, a rock and roll love story. And then in 2014 was the book you mentioned.
Yep.
On the right side, Story of MS. But I've also started a series on combining paranormal with historical fact, missing flowers and a little poison.
Mm-hmm. You are a prolific writer.
Well, those two are set in Vancouver, combined history, because I write a blog on Vancouver history. And that's just, I love to write. But right now I'm taking a step back and working more on my mentor program because I want to help people with chronic illness or disability realize they can do so much more than they ever thought.
Mm-hmm. Which you are a living proof of.
Thank you.
So let's revert back to the writing. So
Okay.
you are not working, sitting home without cats, and you start writing. You continue writing. When did you start thinking, or how did you start thinking that you could start doing that for a living, really?
Well, ever since I was in my 20s, I've tried to get books published with no success. And then I started, of course, by 2004, they were self-publishing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I did with the Bond. And what I did is I resurrected one of my old books, because the Bond is a novella. I tried to send it to Harlequin, but they weren't interested.
Mm-hmm.
So it just sat there. So I just started, resurrecting some old stuff and then writing new.
So it's the self-publishing that has made a difference for you, in fact. So you were already a writer, but not published because that wasn't working, and self-publishing has made a difference for you.
Yes, I mean, I had articles published, things like that, and I ran a newsletter on music in the 90s in Calgary, but I'd never had a book published. And I decided to take a chance and see what I could do.
So you lead me to another question that we get, that we find quite often, is fear. How
Fear?
has fear been impacting you or not impacting you? Well, you had your piece of fear, I suppose, when all of that, the diagnosis was made. But once you decided to self-publish, for instance, is it something that came naturally to you to start the self-publishing route, or were you afraid to do so? Because what is stopping most women from going after their dreams is the fear.
Is fear of not succeeding.
Mm-hmm.
And I always have the fear that one night I'm going to go to sleep and wake up and I'm going to have another attack.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Even though I was told in January that I'm actually getting better.
that's good news.
Which is strange. Once you have the neurological problems, you don't usually get better.
Mm-hmm.
But no, fear of failure has got to be the biggest one. You feel fear that you're going to put everything out there and they're just going to flop.
And so how do you deal with it?
You just recognize that fear is there, but keep going. Because it's, if you don't, what's that saying? You have to fail sometimes in order to succeed.
That's where we learn most in any way. So it's the quote unquote classic feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah. It doesn't work with me. I have a fear of suspension bridges, and that hasn't worked for me yet.
Mm-hmm.
They say, just face your fear. It didn't work. I'm still afraid of them.
Yeah, I mean, I keep repeating the same from one interview to the other, I suspect. But fear will always be there. Always. Yes. Our entire life. The thing is how we handle it that makes a difference. And I'm all about using fear as a fuel as opposed to letting it paralyze you. And so, yeah, that's what makes the difference. And I'd really love people to understand that fear will always be there. So what do you do with it?
Yeah, it's part of our survival.
Absolutely. So you've been writing, you've been self-publishing. So could you make a living out of that, or how did you?
Well, I haven't yet. I know people that have. I haven't yet. I haven't got the right combination of promoting, because as you know, with writing, it's constant promotion.
Mm-hmm.
Constant writing, constant promotion. And so that's why right now I decided to take a step back and get the life coaching going. I say I'm building an empire.
Sounds great.
And the basis is going to be the life coaching, because that's where, once I get it going, can really just be the bread and butter, you could say.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then the speaking, and then the books. And then I'll have more money to invest into advertising that, getting them going.
Mm-hmm. So hearing you talk about promoting, another topic that's very common with women in particular, how do you feel about self-promoting?
Self-promoting is something you have to do. You've got to get over the thing about, I know we always say we can't blow our own horns, right? But you got to. Especially if you're going to be out in the, like with writing or speaking or artwork or anything, you've got to blow your own horn. Let everyone know how great you are. It's hard though.
And so the thing is obviously that we need to believe it ourselves first.
That's right.
I know everything about it. I've been there. I understood something like, what shall I say, probably a little year ago or so. Because I was also at crossroads for the third time in my life for different reasons, not always the same. But and I was also in that position that I wanted to reconsider all my choices in life and in business. And that made me realize that, in fact, my entire life had been ruled by fear. And so visibility, my God, I wouldn't think of it. I was hiding. I was working as a subcontractor. Nobody needed to see me. And I had absolutely not the self-confidence to, just push myself up front, be visible. And that is a problem that a lot of women are facing. But as you say, we have to. And
Fake it.
And the funny thing is, what I quite often discover, even if there's always an element of fear, it's like people, actors going on stage, they continue to have a form of, is that once you start doing it, you think, was that it? Is that why I've stopped my entire life?
It's like the first time I got on stage speaking.
Mm-mm.
In 2014. I mean, I forgot half my speech. Nobody knew until I told the organizers. Now it was with the Bill conference, and now, well, it's actually, they call it an unconference, but it's just a gathering of speakers and that. And like say, I mean, I become a joke about that. They say, yeah, people go, well, has anyone ever had problems on stage? Yeah, Karen forgot half her speech.
But they hadn't noticed while you were doing it. It's because you told them afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
See how we can sabotage ourselves?
Oh yeah, I mean, but we're laughing about it now,
Yeah, of
right?
course. I can imagine.
I mean, but it was terrifying. But then once you get up there, I mean, and every time I go on stage, I get really nervous, and I just I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this, but I do it.
And then you enjoy it.
Yeah, fake it until you make it.
Yeah, absolutely. So at some point you decide that you want to be helping others, people who have, so is it for people who have MS only, or is it for any type of disease? What is it that you want to do?
I want to help those with chronic illness or disability.
Mm-hmm.
Say realize goals and accomplish dreams. Because that is where my expertise is. I mean, I'm not trained as a professional life coach.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a mentor. I've been through it. I can help, get the mind reroute the mind, basically, is what you're doing. To quit thinking. You know who Rick Hansen is, don't you? Man in Motion?
Yeah.
He once sent me a letter, and in it he told me to focus on what I can do and do the best with what I have. And when I do that, I find there's so much more that I can do than I ever thought. And I want to make sure that other people are inspired like that, that they can learn that, it doesn't, just because you can't run a marathon anymore doesn't mean that you're useless.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Definitely not.
Or that you can't. So what if you can only do your chosen profession once or twice a week? You're still doing it. And you're still helping people. So. Yeah,
and inspiration, which is for me the reason for this show to exist. Inspiration is so empowering. There is this thing that we tend to have, is that whatever we are experiencing, we always think that we're the only one experiencing something like that. And it's just amazing. I see it with the show, all these women that I'm interviewing who have the most amazing stories that show, in fact, that once you set your mind on it, when you decide, everything is possible. Everything is possible. And it's, you don't have to stay in that box that people think they associate with a certain type of illness or situation or whatever. Just break the box and make a much bigger for you. Well, not even a box, by the way. We don't need a box.
Just break out. Just think, okay, fine. I don't care what society says that, okay, I'm in a wheelchair, so I can't do this. Think about Terry Fox running across Canada with one leg to support cancer. I mean, or Rick Hansen again, wheeling around the world in his wheelchair. I mean, okay, we don't have to do that. You don't have to publish a book
no, of course.
or wheel around the world. But I just get so inspired when I think of what a lot of people with disabilities have done. and just what all is possible. You don't have to sit at home. You're watching TV and playing with your cats.
That you don't have.
Yeah, that's all I need is more cat hair.
So if I understand you well, the life coaching, the mentoring aspect is something that is new to you now. How long have you been doing that?
Yes, well, I started working with a coach in May.
Mm-hmm.
And I just launched it about 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Oh,
We
great
set it
for
up.
you.
Yeah, and it's called the 90-day turnaround, how to transform the quality of your life starting today.
That is that is absolutely needed for anyone to start
Yeah.
with. So definitely when it is for a more specific situation like a disease or a chronic illness, definitely. Wow.
I got rid of my cane in 2013. And that's when I wrote On the Right Side.
Mm-hmm.
And then I decided that, okay, a book, it's not going to reach everybody, so I'd start speaking. And then the mentoring program launched after that.
So the speaking, you approach it also, I suppose, from the angle of wanting to inspire people through your story. It's
Yeah.
both storytelling.
Yeah, well, I tell my story.
Mm-hmm.
And then just, like right now, at the end of my story, I talk about the mistakes that people with chronic illness make, because I find there's 3 major ones.
Which ones are they?
One, they focus on what they can't do, not what they can,
Mm-hmm.
because all they see is the limited. They're they're limits. They don't see what they're actually capable of. They also focus on their goal. Okay, they're here. Their goal is here, and they just see that big distance, which I say that a lot of people do that, but they don't see it step by step. They just see the big, and it's overwhelming, and they're afraid to start. They don't know how to, so they don't.
They think they have to swallow the entire elephant in one go.
That's a good one. I have to remember that. Can I use that one?
Oh yes, no problem.
And then the third one is that they try to do everything alone.
What's interesting is that it must be even more true for people who have those type of limitations. But again, it applies to anyone.
Yeah, it does. I find with a lot of people that have a chronic illness, they try working with someone who doesn't understand their problems. Like a lot of people don't understand chronic fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
They just go get some rest, but that doesn't always work.
Yeah.
When you hit that wall, it's like a big weight on you, like just pressing down on you. You can sleep 12, 14 hours and you're still tired.
Mm-hmm.
And like with me, I tend to get weepy too. I'm very emotional.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to work with a coach or anybody who doesn't understand that.
Yeah, I think that must be very specific. Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Because they must come from an angle of, oh, you just do this or you just do that. And as you describe, go and rest. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, whereas I can understand a bit more that, okay, your mind is not taking anything in. If I ask you a question, you might burst into tears.
So what are the type of recommendations that you would give to, well, anyone wanting to reinvent their life in general, but maybe more specifically to people who have something more specific like that?
Well, I would first tell people to, like say, work with somebody who can understand, who can help them.
Yeah.
Choose one thing you can do. Don't worry about what you can't. Just start focusing on what you can do, and you do that enough times, and you'll find that your self-confidence improves too.
Yes, of course.
Because when you suddenly become disabled, your self-confidence takes a big hit.
I can imagine.
Yeah, and so that to me is what I would do, is just tell them, okay, I mean, there's of course, a whole list of things, a whole way to work, but just try to change your thinking on what you can do. And one of the happiest people I know is a woman in a scooter. When we had the 2010 Winter Olympics here,
Mm-hmm.
she actually went on to zip lining downtown.
Wow.
They arranged for her, and she's just always so happy. Bright red hair and just...
Happiness can be everywhere, but again, it's, I think what you say, so right, about living in, focusing on the possibilities as opposed to what is not working.
Yes, and choosing to be happy.
And choosing to be happy, yes. I always say, how does it go? I'm translating it from French, but how does it go? It's not being happy that makes you smile. It's smiling that makes you happy. I love that one.
That's a good one, yeah.
Yeah.
I was like,
it's very true.
I mean, we decide each day if we're going to be happy or not.
Mm.
And it's kind of hard to try to be happy every day, but we got to try.
I think that there is, if again, it's what we focus on. We all experience difficult things, as you mentioned. Life is not always nice, and life stands in the way, and it cycles. I always say, happiness is a period between two periods of unhappiness, and vice versa. But at some point, what do you decide to make out of it? And so if you decide to focus only on what doesn't work, because in reality, even when life is hard, if you choose to try and find something that works, something that can make you smile or make you happy, there is always something, but you must be willing to see it.
I end my blog with always, I hope you find the beauty around you.
Love that.
Because sometimes you send right now I've got lots of pictures of fall colors in there because I love this time of year for pictures.
Gorgeous.
But sometimes, maybe it's a flower growing out of the sidewalk. And that to me is just so neat that, usually it's a dandelion weed, but it's battling against man. It's going to survive. And that's beautiful in a way.
Absolutely. I saw recently, last week, one of those buildings. So obviously concrete, stone, whatever it is. And there, very high, there was this plant that was growing from the wall. You wonder, how is it possible? Nature is amazing. Nature is really amazing. Yeah. Wonder. It's a wonder. It's miracles all the time. So yes, be willing to see it, definitely.
Oh.
So Karen, time is stretching as usual. And tell us where people can find you.
Well, you can find me on Twitter at Karen Magill. Spell the last name is spelled Magill. It's important because everybody misspells it. And I've got a website, KarenMagill.com. And I'm on Facebook at Karen Magill and LinkedIn too. I managed to get my name across the board, so.
Yeah, that's good. It's not all different names everywhere, so that's easy to remember. Is there anything, I don't know, do you have any special free thing or offer or whatever that you would want to lead people to? Because I definitely think that you have a fascinating topic for people who need you, and I'm sure there are a lot out there.
Well, you can contact. I'm getting together. It's not all together yet. I'm waiting for my coach to get me a booklet, a transcript of my webinar, which you can connect to through my website.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be there. It's not ready yet. But if you email me, you can press the contact on my website. I've got a couple of booklets that I can always send, no problem if you want them. One is on when I used to write on music. I've got a collection of some of my best interviews. And then some of the best of the Vancouver Vagabond, which is now the Vancouver Voyager, my blog. of
So,
Vancouver.
so you did mention your blog earlier on. What is your blog about? Are you going to move that towards your work as a coach, or
No, this is all on Vancouver and its history.
okay? So that's specific to
Yeah.
your what you referred to earlier on.
Yeah, they were renovating the suite above me, and I knew there was no way I could spend the days here, so I started walking around Vancouver with my camera and just started taking pictures, and then I evolved into the history. It's been running now for over 5 years,
Mm.
and 3 times a week now. It used to be every day, but that got to be too much. It's Karen-Magill.blogspot.com. It's called the Vancouver Voyager now.
Beautiful. And so basically, you make me realize something else as well, is that being passionate about something is always making a difference as well. We did not mention that, but
Yes.
well, you have that passion for writing, you have that passion for paranormal, which we didn't talk too much about, but that's for you something that is always there, I understood.
Oh, yeah. I've always believed it's possible. I think our mind is the least understood thing about
Oh, yeah.
humans. And there's so much power there that if we could tap into it, I think it would be very scary in a lot of ways.
And so the passion for history, old Vancouver, and now the
Oh,
passion for transmitting to others.
oh yes. I think it's passion that keeps you young and passion that helps you get through everything.
I agree.
If you don't have your passions, then you're like a shell.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Karen, I've really enjoyed this interview. It is a beautiful story, a story that shows that everything is always possible if we want to. So thank you so much. And for the listeners who are interested in, reinventing themselves, give a new twist to their life or their business. If they want to sit in the driver's seat of their life to reinvent it, contact me at my website, www.anyesvanrijn.com, ANYESVANRHIJN.com. And you can book a discovery consultation with me that I call a reinvention consultation. Karen, thank you again. It was lovely to have you. Goodbye.
Bye now. Thank you.